Good morning, or afternoon, or evening, depending on what time you're watching this. Your choice, though. All right, so 11.5. 11.5. There are 5 things that are proportional. Five things that are proportional that we're going to talk about today. Okay? First one, second, third, fourth. The fifth has a star, and it has 2 stars. I'll explain that when we get to that. So let's start with the first 4. Now, let's review very quickly. There were 4 ways to cut a triangle. When we had a triangle, we learned this back in chapter 4, 5 maybe. We learned how to cut a triangle. And what were the 4 ways to cut a triangle? So let's talk through that for a second. Jabel, give me the first one. I guess we could go with that. Altitude sounds good. Altitude, yeah. So what's the altitude do? It cuts it and forms a what? Right angle. Good. So first one was an altitude. All right? All right. And then the second one, and we'll draw, and that's going to form a 90-degree angle. Okay? Second one, a median. Haha, good, a median. Which, by the way, cut the opposite side in half. So that's a median. Okay, so we have altitude and median. What's the other one? Oh, an angle bisector. So that would cut the angle in half. So angle bisector, right? So we have 3 so far, right? Good? Any questions up to that point? Are we good? What was the fourth one? The fourth one, what? Yeah, that's true. Good. Perpendicular bisector. Perpendicular bisector. Now, what did perpendicular bisector? It's actually a combination of these 2, right? So, perpendicular bisector. Now, so it's a combination. So basically, if whatever we say is true about one of them, then it's probably true about perpendicular bisector. So, let's talk about proportionality. Well, when we have triangles that are proportional, and we look at them and we think, what are some things? The first 4 are going to be very generic and straightforward. If the sides are proportional, then these things are proportional. The first one is an altitude. The altitude. So if I see a drawing like this, okay, and I have an altitude, then this altitude and these 2 drawings are going to be proportional if these 2 sides are proportional. So whatever, if you have 2 triangles, whatever the sides are, the altitudes are. So that same proportion is true about in both of them. The second one, clearly, obviously, we talked about them. Second one is a median. So if you have a median in 2 separate triangles, and those triangles are similar and congruent, proportional, then those medians will be proportional. The third one, we already talked about, an angle bisector. So we have 3 of them are simply 3 of the things that we've talked about cutting a triangle. Good. Now, the next one's a little bit different. And it's still important, it deals with a triangle. And what are things we've talked about with a triangle? If we have a triangle, and we go around the outer edge, what would we call that? We would call that the perimeter. So what it's saying is this. So our fourth one is simply the perimeter. So in other words, if the sides are proportional, then the perimeter are going to be proportional, okay? And that makes sense because, for instance, if I have a triangle, I have 2 triangles here, one little, one big, and this is 1 and this is 3, and let's just make them equilateral triangles, make it easy for us here. So 1 to 3, right? 1 to 3 is my ratio. So if this is 3, what's this? Well, that's obvious. 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 9, all right? But it's also the same fraction. Notice that? It's still the same proportional section, okay? All right, does that make sense to everybody? Is everybody seeing that? Now, here's where it gets a little more difficult. It's the last one. The last one has 2 stars. The reason it has 2 stars is because it uses two ratios. And I'll explain this in a second. Or 2 sets, or 2, like, doubling the ratio or the proportion. It doubles the proportion. So I'll explain this in a second. And that is going to be the area. The area. So there are 5 things you're going to learn in this lesson. There's a 6th. I'm not doing it. We're just doing the first 5. The first 5 are things that are proportional in triangles. And they are the altitude, the median, the angle bisecting the perpendicular, the perimeter, which, by the way, are straightforward. Then, lastly, the last one is area. And area deals with a different, it squares it's doubling the proportion, or squares the proportion. So we'll go over that here in a second. All right, so we can understand that concept in a second. All right, so we're all dealing with proportionality. All right, any questions on those 5 things? Write those down, and now let's do a couple problems to help you hopefully understand it. All right. All right, so all right, let's see. So if I have a drawing here that looks like this, a big one, okay. And this is 15 and this is 20, okay? So first off, help me out. What do we know? All right, and it says, that gives us the perimeter, 66, and the area is 216 of the smaller one. So this one right here. Okay? So we have the smaller one, your perimeter and your area, and we want to find our perimeter and our area of the bigger one. Now, listen carefully. We have a side, 15. We have another side, 20, right? So we have 15 and a 20. Okay, so what's my proportion? First off, what's the proportion? All right, some of you want to put 20 over 15. So what's that proportion? Reduce that proportion for me, please. Reduce that proportion. So 5 goes into 20 4 times, and 5 goes into 15 3 times. So your proportion is 4 over 3. Or every 4 times, you get 3 over here. Okay? And so that's important. Now, so if I have my proportion 4/3, and I want, okay, so 4 goes with this one, the bigger one, right? So we're looking for the perimeter of the bigger one. Does everybody follow that? And we have a smaller one, which goes with a smaller number down here, 66. Now what do I do? Well, I simply do my 3p equals 4 times 66. Divide by 3. P equals, now watch, 3 goes into 66 how many times? 22. 22 times 4 is 88. So your answer is 88. Okay, any questions? So your perimeter for the big one is 88. Any questions on how that works? Ask me tomorrow. Sorry. Now, I said to you, you have to double the proportion. Double the proportion. So in order to double the proportion, you have to do this. 4/3, and you square them both. Square and square. So that's going to give you 16 over 9 equals 20, or sorry, not 20. And we're looking for this area, and what area we're going to deal with? 216, right? Cross multiply. 9x equals 16 times 216. Divide by 9, divide by 9. X equals, so 9 goes into 216 how many times? Let's see, off the top of our head, how do we do this? Well, if we plug it into a calculator, it's going to give us a number very quickly. If you plug in 16 times 216 divided by 9, you're going to get 384. Okay, 384. All right, so that's how you do that. You square You square your ratio, you double the ratio. That's why it had 2 stars. So you would square or you would double the ratio that was there. All right, any questions on how to do the area? Okay, so that's this lesson in a nutshell. You're going to be looking at information, you're going to be finding the opposite one, okay, based on the proportions that they give you. That's 11.5. Have a good day. Thanks for watching. I know you didn't really have a choice, but good day.